Today we're going to talk about integers and absolute value. So an integer is any number from the set, and we've got those dots, -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those dots again, where those dots means indefinitely. So those numbers keep on going forever and ever in both directions. So here we've got a number line, and you can see that 0 is neutral. 0 is neither positive nor negative. Everything to the right of 0 is positive, and everything to the left of 0 is negative. Opposites. Numbers are opposites when they are the same distance from 0 on the number line. So for example, 2 has the opposite number, -2. They are both 2 steps away or 2 units away from 0. We are not talking negative steps. We're just saying it is physically 2 steps away. It is 2 units away. No matter what direction you go, 2 units away, they are opposites. So an example here, we've got 23 degrees Fahrenheit below 0. The opposite would be 23 degrees above 0, and that would be a positive answer. Our second example, we have 11 inches of rain more than normal. That more is saying it's positive. So the opposite would be 11 inches of rain less than normal. That less would say that it's a negative. So those are 2 examples of integers and their opposites. Next is a coordinate. And a coordinate is the number that corresponds to the point on a number line. So with this example, on the number line at -5, that's the coordinate, -5. And then the graph where the dot is at 4, that is the coordinate 4. Inequalities. They simply compare numbers or quantities. So this symbol here with the arrow pointing to the left, that means less than. The way that you need to read this is you need to read it from left to right. And if you look at this from left to right, the very first thing that you see is that small little point. That small point comes first, so that means less than. Another inequality where the large part comes first, all right, again reading it left to right, so here we've got the large part first, that means greater than. So 2 examples for you. For part A, write 2 inequalities involving 1 and -2. So I'm just going to write those numbers, 1 and -2. How can I write an inequality? All right, how does 1 compare to -2? Well, 1 is greater than, so just put the greater than symbol in. Now, I need to write a second one, so I'm just going to switch the order that those numbers are in. Now, look at your first number. You've got -2. -2 is now smaller than 1, so I'm going to put the symbol in for less than. So those are 2 different inequalities. Part B, replace the circle with less than, greater than, or equal to in -4 and -6 to make a true sentence. So I want you to look at the number line, all right? So here's our -6, and here's our -4, all right? In the sentence, back here in our example, in the sentence, -4 comes first. So look at that. Is this number larger than or smaller than -6? To be larger, it has to be closer to the positives. In this case, it is closer to the positives, so that means -4 is greater than. We would replace that circle with greater than -6. Anything closer to the positives is going to be greater than. This is what trips some people up. They think, well, 6 is the bigger number, so that's got to be bigger. No, it is farther away from 0 and the positives. So it is smaller. All right, with the negative numbers, it is the opposite. Okay, there's that lovely word opposite again. All right, absolute value. What this is it's the distance from 0. So here's a little graphic for you. Those long lines outside of the -3, those are the absolute value symbol. So it's the way that you read it, it's saying, what is the absolute value of -3? And what that means is, how many units away from 0 is -3? It's 3 units away. It's the same thing with 4. What is the absolute value of 4? All right, it is 4 units away from 0. So if we look at our first example, evaluate each expression. What is the absolute value of -4? How many units away from 0 is -4? Our answer is simply 4. Now, example B, little trickier. It's asking what is the absolute value of -8 minus the absolute value of 5. You have to take care of your absolute value symbols first, okay? So the absolute value of -8 is 8, and it's still minus, and the absolute value of 5 is 5. So now we can just simply do that math. It's 8 minus 5, which is 3. Okay? Some of you might be saying, oh, well, it's always going to be positive, and that's not the case, and we will do some trickier stuff in class with that. But I just want you to be aware, it is not necessarily always positive. All right, and let's see. Last example here, evaluate 6 plus the absolute value of x if x equals -2. So this should be a little bit familiar to you. What we need to do is we need to replace that variable with that number. All right, so instead of x, we're going to plug in or substitute -2. So I'm just going to rewrite it. Getting good habits now, rewrite it. 6 plus the absolute value of -2. And make those lines long so you don't think that it looks like 21. All right, so 6 plus the absolute value of -2. So we've got 6 plus, how many units away from 0 is -2? 2. And then 6 plus 2 is 8. All right, so we're going to be looking more of those tomorrow in class.